You have to be insanely focused on the small scope.
In this video, we will be talking to Guitar Hero designer Rob Key about the differences in between indie and big games. Let's go! What are some of the games you worked on?
Worked on a fair few games, but probably the best known games, this game, Guitar Hero. Lead designer on, and then also the game that we made next at Harmonix after that, which was Rock Band. So those two games were definitely the biggest games that I've worked on.
You are a true hero! You're a genius! I love you!
Oh, Shoki, you're very kind, but you know, the thing about those games is, as we were talking about before, they really are like a product of a team. Like, I know it's kind of almost like a cliche to say, but it's always the case. And probably the more amazing thing for me is actually the experience of working on those games with those teams. They were amazing.
That's super cool. That's like part of history.
In retrospect, yeah, you know, it feels like those are games that are going to be remembered for a while. But when we were working on the first Guitar Hero, we didn't think we were working on a big game. We thought we were working on a pretty small niche game for a small number of people because it came with this plastic guitar controller.
It's the game for the end of the night when you've had too many beers.
Yeah, you know, one of the audio designers put his finger on it, I think. He said, you know what we've made? We made guitar karaoke. That's exactly what it was. And funnily enough, it wasn't the plan initially to make Guitar Hero at Harmonix. We just made this game, Antigrav. And it didn't actually sell enough copies to get a sequel. So the team that worked on this game, we had to do our plan B at the time, which was to work on this small guitar game, kind of partnering with this very small publisher at the time, Red Octane. And we were excited to do it because everyone was passionate about music at Harmonix, super passionate. And it was the right game from that point of view. But from a financial point of view, it didn't seem like the right move. And I remember our boss, Alex Rogopoulos, saying to us all when we finished the game, said, well done, everybody. You're going to make 35,000 people very happy. And then it blew up and became $1 million franchise. You don't know if you're working on a hit until it launches. Sometimes you think you're working on something that's going to resonate and it doesn't. Sometimes you just think that maybe it'll just have a small kind of group of people who want to play it. You just don't know until you launch it.
Did you take more risks in terms of design because it was a niche game?
It was a passion project. I think that's what it became. It was like, okay, we're going to do this small passion project that isn't going to add to the company's bottom line in a big way, but we'll all love making it, and let's just get into making it for us. I think that's part of the reason why it really resonated. And we were still professional, you know, we're trying to make this a game for anyone should be able to play this, in the sense that we did a lot of play testing and we did a lot of like careful thinking about how to make it easy to pick up and stuff, all the stuff that you do on games to make them easy to pick up as well as hard to master. And we were professional about it, but the passion that went into it across the team was unparalleled. And it was a short project. It was 9 months from concept to completion, Guitar Hero. Amazing that a project that small and that short could end up hitting so hard and landing so well with people.
Have you made any indie games?
I have. At one point, as a game designer, I got a bit frustrated with myself, and I'd done some programming as part of my education. The computer animation course I did taught me some programming, and I realized, why am I not kind of better with the tools of making games? So I kind of set out on my train commute to work, this 30-minute train commute, to make a game. I'm going to use Unity. I'm just going to make a game on my own, just as a hobby. I kind of made the smallest game I could. It was just this game where you roll a ball down a hill and you have to not fall off. You just steer it left and right, and the world kind of changes around you on this big slope as it goes down. And I called the game Slope. I tried to make it as fun as I could, and I used a lot of the tricks I'd learned about level design to make this procedurally generated course that was different every time. And it was like one of those hard, fun games, a bit like Flappy Bird, where you keep dying, but you want to get a higher score, and you keep playing again and again. I launched it because I actually got a new job. And I'm like, well, let's get this kind of launch so I can start my new job. Again, I didn't think it was going to do very well. But then when I was looking at the metrics of the game, I realized I had like 20,000 plays after a few days. I'm like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Like, it kind of started to blow up. Turned out, like, in the end, that this web portal, Y8, had picked it up and put it on their site, and it was blowing up. They put it on their front page, and now it's had over 100 million plays.
What?
And it's kind of like a little bit of a niche web game hit.
Rob, are you a golden goose? You've got the magic touch.
That one did.
How do indie games differ from big games?
Indie game development is a different beast. I work now at Sony, and a lot of the people on the team that I'm with now at Pixel Opus, they're great indie game developers as well as big game developers. So like most of the team can actually make their own little games as well. So I think being an indie in your heart is actually also true of a lot of kind of game developers in the bigger companies. But there is a big difference. When you're making a game on your own, you basically just have to make a tiny game. That's the biggest difference. You have to be really disciplined about the scope of the game if you're ever going to get it finished. And there's some benefits to that from a design point of view. Actually, having constraints is good in design. And having the constraint that, like in my case, when I was making that game on the train, I had 30 minutes to move the game forward, to complete a task in this game, meant that I had to be very disciplined about only doing the essential things. And that ended up, I think, making the game better, because then you basically discard everything else that isn't the very essence of the game. So that is like one of the differences. You have to be like insanely focused on a small scope. And then you just have to do it all yourself and learn all the skills.
I suppose limitations make you super creative.
That's a truism across kind of creative industries, that you got to have constraints and limitations, and you can kind of flounder if you don't. And you never have that risk of floundering as an indie. If you're going to live and survive as an indie, you have to get going, make a small game fast.
If you want to find out what a typical day is for a games designer, click here and subscribe.